Donald Trump is a total sociopath. Now, I know for a lot of us, that's like saying fire is hot. It's completely self-evident and it's been obvious for a long time. But even for me, he continues to shock me with his total depravity of humanness, of human emotion. I have never seen this man show any kind of empathy or emotion for others. The only emotions I ever see him exhibit are rage, anger, spite. Sometimes, he's laughing in a good mood, but I never see this humanness from him in terms of caring about other people. He'll compliment his friends, say they're doing a great job, but it's always in such like a businessman kind of way. Like, oh, JD's been doing such a great job. Marco, he's been doing so great. Bombing Venezuela. I mean, honestly, usually when Trump is complimenting people, it's really to flatter himself because he will only flatter people who flatter him first and who kind of ride his nuts. Even my own prime minister, I'm Canadian, but part of Mark Carney and a lot of other head of state strategies with Trump is just to basically jerk him off and suck his dick because they know if you flatter him, it's a lot easier to get what you want from him. Lots of people use that. Even we saw a lot of CEOs in the tech world have been doing this with him, really just giving him a nice back massage and in this really overt way to try to get special exemptions from tariffs and stuff like that. He's really easy to play in that sense. He's a total narcissist, but he's also a total sociopath. And this clip here has been making the rounds for good reason because it's insane. All right, after Charlie Kirk, who not only was a huge part of getting Trump reelected with his work with Turning Point USA, his project in that regard was massively influential in turning Gen Z towards MAGA, towards the right, towards Republicans. I'm someone who didn't agree with Charlie Kirk on basically anything and thought a lot of what he said was gross, but I can give him credit. He was good at his job as an organizer, as a messenger for the right wing, especially specifically targeting younger demographics. He did his job well and converted a lot of people to the MAGA movement, brought a lot of people into the MAGA movement. So there was that. He basically spent most of his career serving Trump, serving MAGA, serving Republicans, but also he was personally friends with him. Now, what does it mean to be a friend with Donald Trump? Based on what I can see from afar, I've obviously never met the guy, but Trump just seems hugely transactional. If Charlie Kirk wasn't spending his career serving Donald Trump, would Trump be friends with him? I doubt it. Trump strikes me as somebody who's only friends with people who he believes he can benefit from that friendship. But either way, this is someone who Trump spent a decent amount of time with, had a lot of connection with and conversation with, especially over the 2024 campaign. Charlie Kirk was hugely important in that, and even since he's been in the White House, there's still been a lot of communication. This is someone that when he died, Trump was out there talking about, oh, my great friend Charlie Kirk, the great and wonderful Charlie Kirk. And now, just a couple days after Charlie Kirk's death, after his assassination, a reporter asks him, hey, how are you holding up? How are you doing with the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk? And this answer is just totally unbelievable. It's honestly shocking. It shocked me, even someone who already considered Trump to be a totally depraved, sociopathic human being. I couldn't believe that he couldn't even fake a different reaction other than this was really what shocked me. You'd think he'd have the smarts to kind of fake a more considerate and empathetic reaction. Instead, this is what we got.
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks. They just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty. It'll be an absolutely magnificent construction. And I just see all the trucks. We just started, so it'll get done very nicely, and it'll be one of the best anywhere in the world, actually.
I don't know if you could hear that because the audio on this video is terrible, but they ask him, my condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. How are you holding up? He says, I think very good. And by the way, you see all the trucks? They just started the construction of the new ballroom for the White House. And then he goes and rambles more about the ballroom and all the trucks and how it's the first time in 150 years that they're adding something this significant to the White House. But this is totally shocking to me. The fact that he couldn't even give like a generic 10, 15 seconds of like, oh, it's been a very hard time. Charlie was a wonderful man. We're all feeling his loss very deeply. And then maybe talk about his ballroom if he's so insistent on doing so. But to just be like, I think very good, and then totally deflect, spend no time eulogizing, memorializing. I know he did that with the little video and the tweets he put out, but this was a direct question, about how he's holding up. An easy moment where he could have played the charade of a human being. You'd think that even like an alien in a human body or a robot in a human body would be smart enough to think, okay, how does a human react when their friend gets murdered in cold blood? Would they just feel fine after a couple days, or would they maybe at least take a few moments to memorialize them? Be like, oh, I'm doing okay, but it's been really hard. He was such a great guy, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't do anything even remotely close to that. And all I can think watching this is, how would I feel if I was a Trump supporter, a Republican, a right-winger in America who loved Charlie Kirk and is really upset about what happened to Charlie Kirk, and seeing how dismissive, unempathetic, and sociopathic that response is. From some of the comments, what I see some people coping with is, oh, this is just a trauma response. This is him trying to cope by pretending everything is fine. And I don't buy that for 1 second, because again, you'd think even from a strategic level, Trump would understand to kind of placate it for at least a few seconds. But this is just emblematic of the person Trump has shown himself to be time and time again. He doesn't truly give a damn about anybody else except for himself. But it's just appalling and shocking to me the way that he can't even show 15 seconds of humanness. All right, so there you go, yet another insane example of Trump's sociopathy. And if one thing has come of this Charlie Kirk assassination, it's the fact that it's totally distracted everybody from Trump's fascism, his authoritarianism, the Epstein files, the big beautiful bill, the horrible consequences of that. Rural hospitals are already closing, the ICE raids, the deportations of mostly harmless, innocent people. I mean, there's terrible things going on in America. It's only going to get worse because, like Trump himself and Stephen Miller and a bunch of people have explicitly said, they're going to use the pretext of Charlie's murder to go after leftist organizations. So I'm thankful to live in Canada right now, although, it's still scary times up here for similar or different reasons. There's a different political climate, but everywhere it's kind of scary times. But if I was a leftist in the United States right now, I would be very worried about what's coming down the pipeline. And so even as a left-wing Canadian, I'm worried because, what happens in America often has huge ramifications here. And it's spooky thinking about what's going to be coming from this. I mean, I said it in my last few videos, but Charlie's murder was terrible. I'm not happy it happened, just on a human level, but even more so on just like kind of foreseeing where this is going on a political level. This is going to be abysmal for the left wing in America specifically, and that's going to have trickle effects in countries like here in Canada and in the UK. But what has happened with this, it doesn't even matter. I said this in my last video too. We don't even truly know the motivations of the shooter. For all we know, he could have been a far right winger or not even doing it from a political standpoint, but just wanting to sow chaos in the country. It doesn't matter what the guy's actual motivation was. They're going to use this as a pretense to clamp down on the left extremely hard. And it's going to be rough. And I will also say, what I've seen in my personal life is even some normies are kind of going more to the right because of this instance, because they're seeing a lot of left-wing people like celebrate this murder, which, look, I talked about this in a video. I understand that Charlie said a lot of very hateful things about a lot of people, and if you're someone who belongs to one of the groups that he was very hateful towards, I understand why it's harder to have empathy towards him, even though just from my own perspective, I believe in having radical empathy for everybody, and radical empathy means even people that you might naturally want to hate, or even people you think are disgusting human beings, like trying to see the humanness in them. It's really like an exercise to challenge yourself with, because there's always a gray line of where do you stop having empathy for people, where do you not see people's humanity. This is a whole other conversation, but just I personally believe in trying to have that empathy for every human being, seeing an inherent human value in everybody, even if they're disgusting people on a moral level. But I can understand why people don't do that, or if they have different philosophies, and again, especially like if you're a queer person, a woman, minority, any group that Charlie really spread a lot of hateful rhetoric about throughout his career, I can understand them, having less empathy towards his death. But anybody who has been celebrating this and posting about it jokingly, I really don't think you understand how much damage you're doing to the left-wing brand from a normie perspective. It's extremely careless. Even like I think personally, morally, I don't think it's good either. But even if we take that point away, because you don't agree with me, we can agree to disagree on that part. On a strategic level, you're really hurting the left. Like I said, especially in America, even in other Anglophone countries like Canada, the UK, where this assassination has had a really big impact on just the general consciousness. You're really not helping the left-wing side with these celebrations, because what I'm seeing, even with people in my own life who are mostly apolitical or don't follow politics, all they see is a human being get murdered in a gruesome, horrific way in cold blood in public in a way that we all saw. And then there's one group of people who are celebrating that death, like just on a basic human level, that's not sitting well with them, and it's making them more sympathetic to the right in this moment. And so if you're one of my fellow left-wingers who's out here and have been celebrating this, like, please reflect. Again, even if you're not going to change your own feelings towards it, understand that what you're doing is really, really doing some short-term and maybe potentially long-term damage to any left-wing movements or left-wing goals. And that's just without even talking about how Trump, his administration, are going to totally crack down on the left because of this. So I just wanted to say that as well at the end of this video, but I think that's a really dangerous thing that's happening right now. Even if I do think it's justified if you're someone who wants to make sure that Charlie's hate speech, what he stood for, is not forgotten. There's a rational and pragmatic way to do that without being like, lol, he got shot. Like, that type of stuff is not helpful to you, your cause, to the broader left. It's gonna hurt us. It's gonna drive normies away. And if you don't care about having normies on your side, guess what? Your political project is never gonna be successful. So yeah, that's another dangerous thing. Trump may be a sociopath, but if people see you celebrating death and don't really understand the political context because they're not terminally online like we are, they're gonna think you're sociopathic too, even if you're not. So I just want to caution that. Be very careful about what you're saying, especially if you're in America, because not only will it maybe have strategic impacts on your side of the aisle, but they're gonna come after your ass. And yeah, it's a scary time for the left. I kind of think the American left is fucked, but Donald Trump himself is also a sociopath, a fascist, an authoritarian, and what he's doing is far more dangerous to the country. And we need to do what we can on a messaging level to make that front and center, instead of now the news cycle is about all these crazy left-wingers who are happy a guy got shot in the neck. So let's make sure that doesn't happen. Let's get back to focusing on the real issue right now, which is Trump, the damage he's doing to America and the world that is going to be unrepairable for generations. And we have to do what we can to bring the messaging back to there, even in the wake of this political assassination.